When I look at our history, I realize that our history is not negotiable. It's not defined by slavery. It is a profound history, and we need to teach it in honesty. Hello, everybody. Hello. Good Thursday to you. Welcome to the Erudition Network Interactive Black History and Knowledge Session. I am your host, Eddie Phillips, as I am every Thursday, and we are here on Thursday nights to go over and cover issues of Black history and knowledge for our audience out there. As you know, if you have followed the program, we are on every Thursday, as I said, and what we are trying to do here is grow a audience and a network that provides information and knowledge to our people. Good to see you, Eric. Yes, that's the opening that we created a little while back, but I wanted to utilize it because it's just been sitting there, and I think that will be the opening for the interactive. We'll toward except probably the ending every week. But thank you for that. You know, this has been a very interesting week. You know, I try very hard to give people the benefit of the doubt and believe in the angels and people's nature and that people want to do right. But I am noticing more and more often in this arena of education and teaching that there are a lot of deceptive elements out here. There are a lot of agent provocateurs out here. There are a lot of just pure liars out here. And we are finding ourselves in an environment where lies are just the accepted reality of America. In our history and our daily lives, we like to lie to each other, and I'm going to adjust myself here for you all. And we tend to create more lies to validate the lies that we've just told. And it's becoming upsetting, because what it has done is we are now in a generation where a lot of people just truly have tuned out of what is going on in the world, and we have to do better. We really do about that, but I think that we're just failing at that. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you, we're still having StreamYard problems. So what am I saying to you? If you want to comment on what it is that on this program tonight, please, I will ask you to go to YouTube. Type in Erudition Network on YouTube, and you can comment, and I will see your comments. Or please go to the Erudition page, the main page on Facebook, and you should be able to comment on the main page. I will put that link here in chat so that you could just click it. But I would like you to do that so that you can comment and I can actually see what it is that you're saying. I apologize for whatever is going on with Facebook and StreamYard, but I don't want to miss your comments or your interaction with what we're talking about tonight. I just put that in the chat. Go to the main Facebook, Black Erudition Network, and you will be able to comment through Facebook, and I will see your comments. If you are one of the other pages, I think Tina's and Eddie's page are linked as well as mine. We may not see it, but we will definitely see it from the Erudition page. All right. And when you send links, please send a link for that main page. And if anything, go to YouTube and subscribe to the channel. And then that way you will be able to see, you'll be able to comment, and you can help us grow our subscribers. So that would be appreciated. Eric, what did you say right here? According to Florida, our ancestors learned valuable skills as slaves. In fact, maybe we should be thinking. And, you know, that's one of the things I want to talk about tonight, Eric. I have been back and forth for a few months now on courses and how to design something that would be truthful, that's valid. I pour a lot of time into books and things. Is that my wife? Hey, love. Hey, baby. How you doing? I'm happy that you're here. You know, my wife works also. She's, you know, you may have known she's getting her degree, her doctorate. And this is very hard. If you are a person who I titled this episode tonight, Teach in spite of. In spite of. Even if I can't come on Thursdays, I want you all to know that teaching is important. It is important. If you guys are having problems, please let me know with the network. I'm hoping that we're not having any problems, but I see that I froze a little bit, at least on my end. And I just want to make sure that you all are actually seeing me and getting what I'm going to say tonight. Teach in spite of. We have to be able to move beyond this idea of falsity and fallacy. It's so much of it out here. And I pulled back from my course, quite honestly, to you all, because I wanted to teach the Afro-Indigenous, Afro-Latinx, and Indigenous people part of our history. Here's the thing. We have a long and dynamic history that is in, if you've watched my episodes on African slaves who left and joined indigenous tribes, if you've watched my programs in which I talk about the Maroons and the Seminoles, you know that I've hinted on some of that history. But because we don't teach it, because it is not something that is known generally, we are falling into a trap. And it's a problem. It's a problem. So I want us to do better. I want us to do better. And I want us to start to look at that history, especially as people try to hide it. Hold on a moment. So I want us to do better with that. Sorry, I had a little bit of a delay here. Thank you, Tina. I needed to know that. It really this really bothers me. I think what I'm gonna have to do. There are several things that I'm looking into right now because I'm tired of this. It doesn't help us to constantly have these freezing issues, and I know we have weather and things that are going on, but there are things that we can prevent happening too. But I really want to get into those areas of our history. The Black Cowboys. You're right. You last week you saw that I had Tracy on, and we talked about Aldean's song in the small town, and this idea of flaunting around in a cowboy hat and strutting and pretending that you are the originator of the cowboy culture, when in fact it comes from an indigenous and Latinx and African background. And so we have to do better and making sure that that history is told. I have a friend of mine who sent me, I think he sent me about 4 really good books, and all of those books were really good because when it gave me, I knew some of the history, but it gave me a further depth to go into it, and then pushed me to go study other things, right? To see how we are all related and connected in ways that we are not taught. And then I would have to say in ways that we are not taught purposefully. And so we need to link those particular types of history to the present, allows viewers to understand patterns in a desirable way forward. This should be, it is in my description. You know, one of the things I was recently thinking about, I was watching someone's program, and we were talking about, it's a good point to bring up, Tina, core values. You know, in the Navy, we had our core values, right? Core things that we were supposed to follow, you know, honor, courage, and commitment. And when I initially was inspired to create Erudition, Erudition has core values, right? They have core values. There are 3 major core values for Erudition. And I think I mentioned them a long time ago when we first started, but it's a good thing to go back and look at those things and maybe even put it in the corner of the screen over here. But one, the 3 core values of Erudition are holistic growth, which means full growth, holistic growth. We want people to grow fully in mind, body, and spirit. Efficacious, which means effective, right? Effective instruction, efficacious instruction. And the third, right, is egalitarian honesty. In other words, equal honesty. We're not trying to make anyone feel like they are the villain. What we are trying to do is to provide you with information that everybody can grow from. So that's a very good point that Tina made right there. Because that holistic growth, that efficacious instruction, and that egalitarian honesty, right? You may say, oh, those are really big words, but those words have several different meanings, more than me just saying full growth, effective growth, and equal history. There's a reason why words are used in the way that they are. There's a reason why erudition is named the way that it is. Erudition means erudite, knowledgeable, studious, right? All of these words that we share with you, these terms, they have a meaning and a purpose beyond just some verbal gymnastics or some linguistic skill that you need to have. It's the meaning. It's the meaning. And so we are trying to grow knowledge and understanding. I think that part of erudition is often, I won't say ignored, but it's not something that we focus so much on. Another issue that I have is what I said, teach in spite of. I get on every week and I'm amazed a lot of times after the fact how many people watch the program. And I'm so appreciative of all of you who do that. Because here's the thing, when I'm on, sometimes there may be 3 people on. Those 3 people are important because those are 3 people, rather it be family, rather it be friends, rather it be anybody, rather it be just new growth people who come in. It is important because we are able, that means we're reaching someone. And the issue is that when you see only a few people in a class, in a program, it makes you feel like, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I reaching the people I should be reaching? Because see, this knowledge, this information, I'm not seeing it everywhere. I'm not saying that there are not people who are trying to teach you Black history, but what I am going to say is that it is a very limited amount of people who do it. And those who are doing it, a lot of times, unfortunately, in our society, a lot of it has come from foolery, where we get caught up in things that do not exist, things that are not real, history that is not provable, history that we can't go and challenge an actual historian because we are making up things that never happened. Or, as I was telling my family earlier this week, we are arguing a point, right, that was given to us and it's that someone has already put the counter to. Right? When we say that there is a cancel culture, that's the Band-Aid that we put on things when people don't want to hear us. But they gave us that narrative at the same time where people could put out racist, bigoted, ethnocentric crap and lies and revisionist history and teach it. And when people say, hey, you can't teach that, that's wrong, they go to the argument, the counter argument that they've already been given, cancel culture. And because we're not taught to think implicitly, right? Or empirically. We're not taught to think empirically. What we're doing is we're falling right into the loop. We get mad at something and then they already have the counter right to it. Oh, that's cancel culture. Oh, you're a bigot. Or you're a racist. Or you don't understand me. Or you're not understanding my truth. All of these things that have been put out here to counter and dissuade us and nullify us from actually bringing up the real issue. And nowhere in that do we focus really on the real problem. The real problem is lies, fallacy. We are finding ourselves in a world where lies are everywhere. Are everywhere. Do you realize that since the 1960s, not before, since the 1960s, public history has been contested? It's been contested. That's important because everything before that, through the Archibald Dunning era, through the era of revisionism, coming post slavery, has been designed to just allow us to just accept it. If you don't believe that, look at the Tulsa riots in 1921. We were told when 9/11 happened that no other terrorist villainous attack had ever been done using planes. And there were historians that knew immediately that that was a lie. They knew that more than estimated 1,100 homes were wiped out. They knew that mass graves were built in Tulsa. But they allowed the lie to say that only 75 people may have died on both sides. And there were people, even in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who did not know the history, that were surprised as historians, Black historians and people of color started to bring up this issue of lost history. The challenge that we face right now is that we got to teach in spite of. I worry sometimes if I'm going to be able to teach and stay and do the interactive the way I would like to. I worry because I don't see anybody doing it in the way that I do it. It's not saying that I'm a monolith to myself. It's saying that we have to appreciate the things that we have here. I appreciate the ability to get on here with you all every Thursday. The God-given strength. Sometimes I'm not well. Sometimes I'm not well, but I still fight to do it. I appreciate my wife taking out of her time, going through a stressful doctoral program. Stressful. And yet she gets on Mondays as she does her show. And she talks to you about how to get around those stressors that she's dealing with daily. It is so important that we teach in spite of. I hope that if you've been watching Erudition, that you've taken, and I've heard some of you who haven't, God bless you for that. You've taken the initiative to teach history in your home, in your family, to go share some of the information that you get from these programs, to grow. Our biggest thing on Erudition, part of our branding, is growing. You see it right behind me over here. Growing knowledge and understanding. Those are inspired words. Because when we started it, I didn't know what we were going to do. I followed what I felt God gave me and what I needed to do because we needed to do that. Could there be a link of human trafficking and bodies we were uncovered? I don't know, but I will tell you this: that the whole situation of human trafficking, of Black people vanishing, this has happened ever since the 1600s. This is not new. You know, we like to look at laws as they fit us right now. Do you know that there were laws that are in place for stealing a slave? From abducting or absconding and taking a slave from another slave owner? Do you know that the penalty of that could cost you life? It was death. Slaves were more valuable, right, than horses, and horse thievery could get you hung. So when we say that no white person ever died for taking or killing or assaulting a Black person, that's not true. It happened. It was property. So right now, when you have people who have had 4 generations or more who told themselves that folks were property, It should not, excuse me, it should not surprise us if they're still taking, snatching, and stealing women. The whole Save Our Girls movement that people often ignore. This is real. This is real. And yet, here we are. Here we are in a world right now where we act as if these things are brand new. I have found myself lately, I told myself yesterday, I said, I got to get back to actually doing a complete lesson, pulling you guys in and doing a lesson. I need to get back to talking about the uneducables and all of these things. But I have been led lately to keep this very interactive because things have come up in my life, things have happened. But at the end of the day, I realized that I needed to talk to you, to the folks who watch this, and beseech you to share, to teach in spite of. You don't got to like me. You ain't got to like what I tell you. But teach in spite of. Right? Because if we don't do that, if we continue to play these games that we're playing, because we are playing games, we're going to lose ourselves. We're going to lose ourselves. We are falling short of teaching truth. Eric said it earlier. They're telling you that the African brought nothing to the Americas. They did nothing. They tell you that our history started in 1619. And they forget that from 1525 to 1866, 12.5 million Africans. Let me say that to you again. I didn't say 1619. I said 1525 to 1866. We have the numbers. And I believe it's actually less, it's smaller than what it actually was. 12.5 million Africans were shipped to the New World. We have the documents to show they were shipped. And of that 12.5 million, only 10.7 million survived. From the disembarkment, from coming from across seas to North America, to the Caribbean, to South America, only 10.7 million survived. I find it crazy at how we look at North America, because only a very small percentage of that actually made it, per their records, legally to North America, to the colonies. So that meant that of that 10.7 million, those folks that we call migrants and immigrants and people who we're saying don't come through the borders, the Guatemalans, the Brazilians, all these people, those are your relatives. Whether they want to face it or not. Brazil, we know, had about 5 million Africans. Brazil in itself. We have to understand that we are more connected than we know. We are more connected than we know, than we have been taught. But we lie to ourselves. We lie to ourselves because we allow people to tell us falsities. There's a reason why Florida is so important to knowing history. The Maroons, the Seminoles who populated down there in Florida. The reason Florida is a state is because the Spanish first owned it. Andrew Jackson sent troops in to start the Seminole Wars by blowing up Negro Fort, killing men, women, and children, and indigenous people who lived at that fort in peace. And his reasoning, his actual quote was, "It is not safe to have runaway Negroes occupying a place so close to Southern plantations." You're not taught that. Tina, it seems like distractions happen in a significantly historical event we're being distracted from, but no one is making the connection to go viral. People are out here talking about foolery, Tina. It is a distraction. You are absolutely correct. We beg people to get on and interact and talk about history. And I try to get people inspired to want to read. And I give you books and I tell you where to go and I do all of this. But at the heart of it, it got to come from here. Are you desirous to know who you are, where you come from? Because I will tell you, many of us, white, black, or whatever, you don't know. You don't know. And that's unfortunate. We do our DNA. I've heard African people, black folks say now, well, I don't want to do my DNA, or I want to do my DNA a certain way. I get on here and I even, I thank the Lord God for the mind that I have. And I don't say that to be braggadocious. I say that for the mind that I have so that I can piece together that science part, right? I can piece together that history part. I thank God for that because it's very hard to explain one thing without explaining the other. When you look at the DNA that you have, God allowed you to understand what DNA is, right? And so when you look at your DNA, when you understand what DNA is, now you have the ability to go back and look at that mitochondrial Eve and realize how we are all linked. To realize the story within your blood, within your body, that tells the tale of where you come from. This is so important for African Americans because a lot of us can't trace our ancestors beyond the Civil War. You don't know. And so now you're able to share the fact that you have connected DNA with people in Australia and Norway and understand, man, my blood, I've been everywhere. People who should take that and say, man, we are connected. Instead, they lie to themselves and say, I don't want to see that because I don't want to know that I have black blood in me. It's a real thing. It's a real movement out here. Folks telling you that ancestry and my heritage and whoever, whatever, is it real? Is it truthful? I don't know if that's real. And then not understanding that we don't just go with the DNA. We look at the DNA and then we look at the historical trace. And we follow that. You think that Dr. Henry Louis Gates does that finding your history? You think that that's done in a vacuum? That these celebrities who are told, "Hey, yeah, your grandfather or your great grandfather was a slave owner," or this guy came. That's because we can follow the record. It's not someone sitting here making up things to you. That's not what we're doing. You know, I sat around and I did an entire lesson for this course I'm making talking about Darwinism, evolution, DNA, because I don't feel that you can talk about history without talking about how organisms undergo adaptations to their environment, without talking to you about the adaptations that can occur and changes in organisms to your DNA and how things work the way they do, to disprove some of the accepted notions of evolution by the very people who came up with the concept of evolution, to tell you the real history and not something that you are just accepting, that I descend from an Australopithecus, that I am a monkey man. And further your understandings of hominids. There is so much. I sat yesterday, so much that we have exposed and talked about on this program. We talked about the multiracial racial myth. There is only one race, human beings. There are nations, there are cultures, there are things we have adapted as man. I've talked to you about Johann Blumenbach. I've talked to you about Carl Linnaeus. I've talked to you about Arthur de Gabriel, who these people, these names that have pushed our history in the wrong way. These are not names that I know you're getting out of the history books. The names that you get out of the history books is George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, but nobody talks to you about Arthur Garbenet, right? The very man whose his theories influenced Nazi ideology because of his racial theories. Because he believed that the white race was deteriorating because it was mixing blood. Because he did not understand that idea, that concept of DNA. And even if he did, he didn't care. He saw the other people as lesser. These are the originators of your history that is in your history books. These are those people who are enlightened thinkers, who taught you the multiracial lie, who taught you the racial lie worldwide. And then the understanding that race is really a man-made invention. Before the European came to the Americas, before Columbus ever got here, you were a European. You weren't even a European. You were an Italian. You were French. You were British. You were wherever you lived. After they came over, the classification, the categorization of European came into place. The idea of the Anglo-Saxon, the idea of the pure race, higher race individual came into place that infected us from the 15th century all the way to today. That is the motivation. And people took those and still put themselves in little categories. And now they don't want you to teach that knowledge. Now they don't want you to hear it. They don't want you to know about it. They don't want you to even tell nobody about it, because here's the thing. It exposes. It exposes. And we can't have that. We can't have that. If you don't teach people, you know it's out there, but you don't teach people about evolution because evolution is real. Genetics show us that humans evolved, that we evolve. We are designed to evolve. But what it does not tell us is that we evolved from species that are still around. The chimpanzees, the gorillas. And then the understanding of the racial motivation behind that. Because once life was found in Africa, we had to say, well, it's not real life. Well, we didn't have to say. Racist historians had to say it. And it's an illusion. It's a lie. We can't go into this history, right, without talking about it. We can't go into this history without actually really being honest about it. I don't know any cultures that have allowed themselves more so than African Americans to just allow themselves to be taught without asking those empirical questions of who, what, when, where, and why. They gave us Bibles, they gave us books, they gave us things to keep us structured or focused on the wrong thing. But we don't live in those times now. Knowledge is here for you. Knowledge is here for you. But yet we don't follow it. There's another lie out here as I get ready in the next couple of weeks to go into the indigenous, native, and Black history that I was thinking about yesterday. This lie of indigenous. I always hear, I never really hear, I hear it from Black people on a local level. But what I have watched throughout my life, and I'll be 50 this year, is I've watched the average, white people say that they have Native American in them. This is what they say, right? When you look at it, that's a lie. They don't. I will tell you what is true. A lot of the indigenous and a lot of the Black folks in this country, African Americans, they definitely have one thing in them. They have at least about 30 to 40% European ancestry in them. And that shouldn't be surprising considering slavery, but it's the truth. And we found that only 0.8% of people in America actually, right, who claim that they are, I'm Native, right, have that original Native ancestry in them. That's what DNA proves. That it's in your DNA. This is why a lot of people don't like to focus on DNA. Because they see it as a way to disprove things. But I will tell you this, there is a shocking amount of white people in this country who have African DNA in them. And they don't want to know. They will claim the indigenous, but they will not claim the African. When a lot of the indigenous have African DNA in them. It is foolery. Because in the end of the day, there are a lot of white people with African ancestry. And they ain't got to look too far to find it. Most people, they found, right, that a lot of them have African ancestors within their bloodline that are within the last 100 years. And if not within the last 100 years, within the last 6 generations, or at least the last 200 years, meaning since the time of American slavery, there's data that shows that there's a mixed percentage of white people with African ancestry that is current. But we're arguing over, and we're allowing ourselves to be abused, and we're lying about our history, and we come from the same people. We come from the same people. The research is out here. But what we have found ourselves doing is isolating ourselves into foolery. It's foolery. If you go look at Georgia, I remember reading, if you go look at Georgia, and I'll put that research in there. If you go look at Georgia and South Carolina, right? They had some of the largest populations of slaves, right? You could also put Louisiana in there, because my ancestors come from Louisiana. And what's crazy is that there was a migration from Carolina, right? Georgia, Louisiana, Alabama, and you can watch it. And according to the one drop rule that they created, it showed, right, that they when you look at the DNA, they have the highest. Those states, Georgia, South Carolina, Louisiana, Alabama, they have their white folks have the highest black DNA, African DNA in them, in those slave states. Why is that? Because slavery in itself was a situation where folks lived together with those slaves, and everything wasn't a rape. Some of it was people falling in love, people having kids, somebody trying to hide the fact that they had a kid that had black blood in them, and not wanting to show that their child or whoever slept with this black person, and they allowed it. Or maybe their Christian values didn't allow them to enslave somebody that had their blood in them. Whatever it may be, it existed. People forget that with the rising of the second clan, I taught this. They didn't just attack blacks. They went after poor whites. They went after anybody who they thought had a fealty towards integration. They killed white and black. They killed anything that they thought degraded the blood. In states like Florida, where we don't want to teach history, every Thursday I get on Erudition, every Thursday, and I try my darndest to give you some history you didn't know. Not because I'm trying to blow your mind. I'm telling you because the history that I have had to read and I've studied, this is not an easy show to do. It takes study to remember these people's names. It takes study to go and look for these people. I can't give you just foolery, as I like to call it, made up history. It bothers me that I see grown, rich, influential black folks walking around here with 1619 hats on. Why don't you just stamp slave on your head? We stand up proudly and we proclaim, my ancestors have been here since 1619. That's a lie. They were here a lot longer than that. They've been here. They were in the churches. They were on the boats. They weren't always slaves. They were in South America. And the historians tell you it on the sly. Not in your K through 12, because we don't want you to learn early so that you want to, learn more. You got to go pay. Go to colleges. African American studies classes, maybe. And then we're only going to present that to you in a theoretical manner. Not as fact. We're only going to tell you that this may have happened. When you look at the migration patterns that show everything but migration coming from Africa to the Americas. Where we can sit here and talk about Beringa and the Bering Strait and say that they came all the way through Asia and all the way over, and that's how they walked over. But never tell you, even though we have remnants of boats and things that are found on the coast of these South American coastlines, even though cultures built statues like this one. This is a model of one. The basalt heads that look like black folks to honor those visitors who didn't come to conquer them, came to trade. And you know what they called this? You know what they said it was? Oh, well, this is the Olmecs. And who told you this? White, prejudiced, biased historians who had no skin in the game to tell you that Africans came to the Americas. They told us that this wide nose that you see on this, and I thank my friend for sending me this. This is a gift he sent me. They told you that these lips you see right here, right? And this nose, the reason why they designed that was so that it could look like an animal. I didn't make that up. That's what they told you. As they were digging those basalt heads out of the ground and realizing that's just a representation. These huge multi-ton stone carved heads that were carved in a quarry and taken miles to beaches to sit there to welcome those visitors who came and taught them how to build their spears, who came and taught them what they knew about the land, who brought over other things that come from specifically Africa that arrived over into the South Americas that people will tell you, well, they just floated on the winds and the water, and then that's how they got here. But they give the Columbus Exchange all of the credit for all of these different products that came over to say, well, Columbus bought it over here, which is a lie because Columbus himself told you in his own writings. Foolery. That's my term for it. Pure foolery. And it happens every day. It happens every day. It is the reason why Carter G. Woodson, the father of Black History Month, right? Why he formed the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. And then he launched the Journal of Negro History. Because he understood we need to teach our history. We don't know who we are. And wrote books that are not shared in our schools. Gave his entire life so that we could have some study in history. Have a foundation to go further that many of us have never, you haven't picked up a Carter G. Woodson book. My wife the other day asked me, she was asking me something about W.B. Du Bois. And I was saying, well, Du Bois wrote so many essays and books. Do you agree on everything that they said? No, because they're writing at a time of 1920 to 1960. And those are different times. We know more. Scientifically, we know more. But I will tell you this, if they were living right now, they want us to know more. They'd encourage you to join programs like Erudition. They'd encourage you to get out there and read and bring books and talk about this history and grow the knowledge in your community. I've told you, people who know who they are they will never worry about being told who they are because you will know. Can't nobody tell me that I ain't nothing but a thug if I know who I am. But if I put a moniker on my head, right, and say 1619, my history starts with 1619. That's problematic. That's not your history. It's foolery. Think beyond that. Grow beyond that. See the worth and the wealth. As Dr. Du Bois said, the gift of who you are. Carter G. Woodson wrote books about the background. He outlined how Africans came out of Africa into the world. He studied it. Some things are outdated, but a lot of it is not. It's based on actual proven scholastic, tried and true history study. Talking about the ancient Mesopotamians. Talking about how people learned. Talking about how cultures migrated. Talks about heroines and heroes and people who helped us to get to where we are. But all over the world, you say African. Even in Africa, people don't even want to assign themselves with that history. They've been brainwashed to believe that that means that they're less than. And I will tell you, as I study more African indigenous history, as I study more African and Latinx history, and I see how they intertwine with each other, we are more closely related than you will ever believe. So when you see those migrants that are down there on the borders and they're telling them you can't come in here, this is their land. They pushed them out of it. Read about the Mexicanos that were in California and in Mexico that were pushed out. While we celebrate and remember the Alamo. It's foolery. And I'm tired. That's why I named this program tonight, Teach in Spite of. In spite of all of this that I talked about tonight. I'm encouraging you. I'm telling you, share the program. Share it. Grow the network. Help us so that others and us can teach. At the bottom of my screen, every episode, sometimes I forget to put up. We put a Cash App thing down here for people to donate to the broadcast. And I appreciate those of you who have. To buy cameras and mics and these things. But at the heart of Erudition, what it really is about is teaching, is helping. You help us to do that by simply sharing. I get on, and I'm going to say this and I'm going to get off because I'm at my hour. A lot of times I'm on social media because somebody sends me something from social media. And I go look at it to validate, see if it's legit. And I'm often just astounded by the foolery that is out here, that folks are on social media with thousands of people following them. And they're teaching foolery. And I go on the programs with them sometimes if I'm scrolling through TikTok or whatever, and I say, hey, where's your source information? And they never ask me. And sometimes they boot me out of their live sessions. It's foolery. But somebody's sharing that foolery, thinking that it's fact. I'm asking you, those who watch this program, those who watch my wife's program, those who watch the boys' program, share. I have watched my wife sit there for a day or more and put the time in creating PowerPoint slides and things to show on her show, to give people something to look at, to help them self-soothe and cope. That's dedication to helping people. The cost of her time, she's in a program. We do this because it is an effort of love. It's something that we really want people to grow. We're not giving you foolery. Ladies and gentlemen, that's been my hour. I hope you got something from it. Y'all kind of went silent. I think you probably thought I wasn't accepting your questions. I did answer some of your inputs here, but I really want you, and I hope that you were actually on the main page sending your comments. And maybe I'm hoping that it's not the issue where you were sending comments and I just wasn't seeing them. Please go to the main page, because that definitely we could see it that way. I still go back and I look at those other pages because we're having this problem, and I pray that we still solve this problem so I can see more of you guys' inputs and questions. But I am I don't know if I answered this last one here. I think I did. It seems like distractions happen in a significant historic event we're being distracted from, but no one is making a connect. Yeah, we did. We talked about that. Oh, they're virally putting out foolery. It's just the truth. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. I thank you for the 4 of you who I have on here. Thank you for sticking with us. Please share. If you watch this program later, if you can't catch it, you couldn't catch it live, please share. If you want to discuss something with me that you think you'd like to put in, have a live discussion, please send us something in chat. And maybe I do the Saturday wrap-up show by request. If someone sends me a request to come on and do that show for a couple of moments, minutes, or whatever, I try not to do an hour unless we get a lot of people. I will come on Saturdays around 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, and I will come on and we can do a discussion on Saturdays, Saturday evenings, to answer some of your questions. So if you have historical questions, please use that time, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time, 6 o'clock Mountain Standard Time on Saturday, and I can come on and we can definitely discuss those things. I want to share something with you. Okay, what is it? Did you send it to me? Because I'm getting ready to get off. I'll give you a couple of more minutes because you're my wife and I love you. Unless that's just a late comment. Is it a late comment? The world is in suspense and anticipation. Well, you could have told me offline. This is married life, people. This is married life. All right. I'm out, ladies and gentlemen. I definitely appreciate your time and your effort. Please feel free to support these programs. And like I said, if you want to talk to us, you can always hit us through the Erudition YouTube chat comments, or you can hit us on our Facebook page. We also are on Twitter and Twitch, so you can contact us in any of those forums, and we definitely will respond and comment back to you on whatever it is that you need. All right, I'm going to run that beautiful trailer one more time as I get out of here so that you can kind of see what my thoughts on history, and then you will be out of here. But until next week, until I see you again, be blessed. Thank you. When I look at our history, I realize that our history is not negotiable. It's not defined by slavery. It is a profound history, and we need to teach it in honesty.